My name's Mark, and I'm a multimeter junkie. I'm going to be doing an ad hoc review on a Micronta 22-191 multimeter. Dates back to about the mid-1980s. I used to have one of these. I liked it pretty well. A friend of mine blew it up recently, well, a couple years back now. I acquired one on eBay. Couldn't really use it that much because it wasn't all that accurate. Unfortunately, digital meters, we tend to rely on them, their accuracy a little too much, even if they're not accurate. It was off by about 10%. It would read 4.5 volts instead of 5 or something like that, and that's really unacceptable in the work that I do. Later on, I did find a schematic, and guess what? I've got it adjusted out now, and it actually works pretty well. Let's take a look at it, shall we? Now, I've got it partially disassembled, but this is what it looks like in case you should happen to see one on eBay. And we get the cover off, and you can see, you know, it's kind of cheap Oriental construction. What can you say? On the back side now, I've marked the two adjustment potentiometers for AC and DC. It just uses a little 315 milliamp glass fuse, and of course that doesn't meet current safety standards, but for ordinary purposes, not high energy stuff, you'll be okay with something like that. And let's get the covers back on it and give it a try. I'll be right back. Now I did adjust this with reference to my Fluke 85 about a year or so ago. Presently I have a Fluke 87 connected up to a DC power supply. Let's take a look. And let's start out at about 5 volts or so. I find that with a lot of the work I do, if a meter does pretty good at about 5.5 volts, that's pretty handy. A lot of microprocessors run in that range, 5 to 5.5 volts. And so let's give it a try. Might help to have it on DC volts. 558. How about that? Actually matches up pretty well to the Fluke. Now, this meter being 25 years old, I'm hopeful that its components have actually settled in pretty good. As I say, it was adjusted about a year ago or so, so you know, what can I say, a $5 meter? Not suitable for professional really, or high energy kind of work certainly, but usable for hobby work, and like I say, I'm a multimeter junkie, so forgive me. And that'll do it for now. Okay, now we're going to check a Viz brand, which is RCA's old test equipment division. Handheld multimeter that I picked up about 1981 or 1982. This is just about as old as it gets for a handheld multimeter. It's not auto-ranging. It was a pretty good meter, served me good for a long time. I keep it now mainly for the HFE check function on it, which is not that well regarded by some people, but I find it handy sometimes. Let's take a look. And here we have a power transistor. And it's a PNP with a gain of 32. As I connect and disconnect the base connection, you can see that the transistor exhibits gain. As I say, it's not auto-ranging, which limits its usefulness somewhat, but I keep it around for the transistor check function. Now, on DC volts, I did cheat a little bit and adjusted it with reference to my Fluke 85 here a few months ago, but it really wasn't off by very much. Right now, we're running about 5.5 volts on a DC supply, and guess what? 5.5 volts. So all in all, a pretty good meter. It takes a couple of minutes to tear it apart, and because of the inconvenience of fooling around with the battery compartment and all that, I may not choose to do that. But a Viz 747, if you'd happen to see one on eBay for $5 or something, it's not a bad little meter. Thanks a lot. And with regards to burden voltage, both of these multimeters run 100 millivolts per milliamp up to the 2 milliamp range. The 20 milliamp and 200 milliamp ranges run 10 millivolts per milliamp, which is not too bad. And on the Viz meter, the 10 amp range is unfused apparently. The Micronta meter only goes up to 200 milliamps.